If you want to buy a resale HDB flat without using any agent but don't know where to start, don't worry. In this video, I'm going to take you through the step-by-step process of how you can buy an HDB resale flat on your own. As I bought my own resale HDB without any agent, I have experienced the process myself and I can confirm that with the right preparation, it's actually not that difficult to do it by yourself, especially because we have the fantastic HDB portal and many other online sources. Okay, let's start. Step 1 is to assess your eligibility. Before going for viewings, the first thing that you should do is to apply for the HDB flat eligibility or HFE letter. You can apply for this document through my flat dashboard on the HDB website. It basically helps to outline 3 things: your eligibility, CPF housing grants, and loan eligibility. For the first part, your eligibility will be checked. This clarifies if you can buy a resale flat based on factors like citizenship, marital status, and minimum occupation period. The second part is the CPF housing grants. This is so you know what grant is available, and FYI that first-timer couples buying a resale HDB flat can receive housing grants up to $190,000 if you combine the CPF housing grant for resale flat families, enhanced CPF housing grant, and proximity housing grant. This can help to lower the down payment needed for your house. Last but not least, this HFE letter will also specify the maximum HDB housing loan amount that you can apply for. Note that if you wish to take a housing loan from a bank instead of borrowing from HDB, then you should also apply for in-principle approvals or IPA letter in parallel so that you know how much is the maximum amount that you can borrow. This HFE letter will be valid for 9 months, and you must have a valid HFE letter when you obtain an option to purchase from a flat seller and when you submit a resale application. Don't leave it to the last minute because it can take about a month to process your HFE application after you have submitted all the required documents and information. Even worse, this processing time may even be longer when the application volume is high, such as just before BTO project launches that nowadays happen 3 times per year. With your HFE letter in hand, it's time to dive more in-depth into financial planning. Even though the maximum amount that you can borrow is stated in HFE or in your IPA letter, but that doesn't mean that you have to max it out. You should determine what is the monthly loan repayment amount that is comfortable for you based on your income and other existing commitments. You can use tools such as online affordability calculators from HDB and other online sources. The next part is to calculate your down payment. Even after factoring the CPF housing grants and using your OA, you can also consider how much cash you are willing to pay from your savings for the down payment. This is important because the higher your down payment is, then the lower the amount of monthly installment that you need to pay. Last but not least, do list down all other expenses beyond the purchase price, such as stamp duty, legal fees, renovation costs, moving costs, etc. The outcome of this exercise is to know what is your budget to buy the resale flat that you want. Once you have figured out your maximum budget, the next step is to start hunting for your flat. But even before starting booking viewing appointments, my suggestion is to discuss with your partner first what are the must-haves for your future home. For example, should it be within walking distance to MRT station, or are you okay to take a feeder bus? Must it be within 2 kilometers of a good school for your kids, or are you a believer in every school is a good school? Must it be well renovated, or do you prefer to put your own style and do a major renovation? Are you okay if the seller wants a 3 months free extension, or are you strictly looking for immediately move in? Must it be on a super high floor, or are you flexible with the mid-floor? Which area do you want to stay? What is the maximum commute time to work or school for your family that you can tolerate? Do you want to take the proximity grant and live near your extended family, or are you okay without it? Do you die must have an open kitchen? If yes, then you have to carefully observe where the bomb shelter is. These questions go on and on. Once you have your list of requirements, then the next step is to take a hard look at the list and prioritize which ones are the must-haves versus nice-to-haves. The more clear you are with your requirements, the easier it will be to make a decision during the house hunting. I'm sure you are familiar with several portals for home searches in Singapore, so I won't go through that part in detail. But once you have a bunch of flats that you are keen on, start shortlisting them and contact the seller's agent to arrange for a viewing appointment. Now, here's the harsh reality. From my own experience and stories I've read online, DIY buyers tend to get ignored by some seller's agent. Not all, yeah, I said some. Out of 10 WhatsApp messages that I sent, I probably only got 2 or 3 replies. It can be annoying, especially if you see the flat that you really like keeps being shown on the property portals, but the agent is not responding. There are several possibilities why some seller's agent is not responding. They could be very busy, or they are already in final negotiation stage with other buyers, or it could also be that they don't take you seriously because you are a DIY buyer. Unfortunately, some agents and even sellers have the perception that DIY buyers are typically not well adverse to the HDB buying and selling process. Hence, the seller's agent might hesitate if they have to guide you as well because they will only receive commission from the seller. Why do the double work if the pay is the same, right? Another stereotype is that DIY buyers tend to be cheapo or have a low budget, hence they refuse to engage a buyer's agent. If you are stingy to begin with, then it will be more difficult to get the high price that the seller wants. To increase the chances of being taken seriously by the seller's agent, here are the things that you should include in the message to send to the seller's agent to express interest. In the first line of your message, you should mention that you are a serious buyer, not just someone who has a lot of free time and has a hobby of looking at other people's houses. Next, you need to mention your citizenship or PR status. The third thing you should mention is that you have your HFE letter with you. This is to further emphasize that you are a serious buyer. The fourth thing is, if you already sold your current house, you can mention this so that they know you are ready to buy. But of course, if you don't own a house yet, no need to mention this. Last but not least, you need to mention your ethnicity. This is simply because certain flats have ethnic quota restrictions. Mentioning your ethnicity is going to save time for all parties involved. By the way, make sure your WhatsApp photo profile uses a photo that looks professional, and the name displayed on your WhatsApp profile should also show your real name. No emotional status or blank profile photo placeholder. In order to be taken seriously, you should show professionalism even though you are a DIY buyer. If you don't receive any reply in 2 days, but you can see that the ad is still active, you can follow up with the agent either by sending another message or calling them directly. However, if you do want to call, generally try to avoid calling on a Saturday, Sunday, or public holidays because usually they will be busy showing houses to people at these times. Don't get discouraged if you don't hear back. Again, remember, statistically only 20 to 30% will respond to you, so you just have to keep trying. Next, let's talk about viewing. This is the opportunity to check whether the pictures match reality. If you choose to be a DIY buyer, then you need to give extra attention to the flat because there's no agent to help you, right? Let's go through what are the things that you need to watch out for. The first thing is to check whether there's any renovation that violates HDB rules. This is important because those violations will need to be fixed before the sales can proceed, which will leave you in a tough position if you already paid for the 1K OTP. Examples of such violations include the removal of the bomb shelter door, permanently covering the pipes, etc. I'll leave a link in the description down below so you can read through what are those that are not allowed. If you do find any of these violations, unless the seller puts it in writing that they are willing to reinstate the flat, the best is just to look for other options. The next thing that you need to watch out for is any potential structural issue. During the viewing, don't get fixated on the decor alone. Make sure that you pay attention to any cracks in the walls and ceiling, especially if it looks big. The other thing you want to look for is any signs of water damage on the ceiling, on the wall, or on the floor. Bubbling, warping, cracking, discoloration, mold, an unpleasant odor, or a spongy feeling are some of the telltale signs of water damage. Water damage can lead to termites, which will be very expensive and extremely difficult to get rid of. Based on personal experience, the seller's agent might try to dismiss your concern, for example, by saying the mysterious water damage is just because the children were playing, or that other sellers also normally close off both of the bomb shelter ventilations, or that whatever issues you are pointing out is normal wear and tear, etc. but you should trust your gut feel. If things you are concerned about look significant, but you really like the apartment, then it might be worth it to pay for a third-party professional to assess the unit. Besides inspecting the house, I also suggest you to pay attention to the surroundings of the flat. On the same floor, is there any neighbor who seems to be a hoarder and left a lot of things outside their house? Look at the neighbor's shoe rack. Do you see any kids' shoes? Any baby stroller, any kids' bikes? These can indicate the presence of young children if you are sensitive to sound. Go one floor above and also one floor down to do a similar inspection if having a peaceful surrounding is important to you. Last but not least, you should also try to Google the block or project name and see whether any old news pops out about neighbors from hell, building issues, etc. Remember that you are the buyer here. You are the one with the money. If the flat is giving you red flags, just move on and find something else. One practical tip: make sure you wear socks. Obviously, with Asian culture, you need to remove your shoes before entering the house, but you'll never know how clean or dirty the floor is, so just wear socks for your own good, okay? Once you have found your ideal flat, it's time to take it to the next level and start to discuss the price and whether the seller wants to extend their stay. Negotiating prices can be challenging, and for me as a DIY buyer, that was the one time where I truly wish I had a buyer's agent to get some perspective on how much I should offer. But the good thing about Singapore is that the past transactional data can be found easily. There are a few things that you can do. First, go to the websites that have free valuation tools such as SRX, UOB, Jetfile, etc. Some systems will ask you for the floor and unit number, so make sure that you take note of it during viewing. Second is you can go to HDB website. Not only you can see past transactions for the building, the HDB website even has an option for you to see transactions for the surrounding buildings within 200 meters. You only need to enter the postal code. Another alternative is to go to the bank to ask for valuation, especially if you are planning to get a bank mortgage loan and have obtained in-principle approval from them. Some might give it for free, but some might charge a certain amount of money. So, how much should you offer? Usually, the listing price will already assume buyers will try to bargain. A reasonable offer would be if you are offering more or less the same amount of the highest transacted price for the same size and level in the past 3 months. For example, if the listing price is $600,000, but other flats of the same size at the same project were recently transacted at $540K, $550K, and $520K, depending on which floor and where it is facing. So then your offer should be somewhere around there. If you offer $400,000, then for sure they will ignore you, right? But if you offer around, let's say, $545K, for example, then they will know you are a serious buyer. Here's the tricky part. If you bid higher than the HDB's house valuation, then you will need to pay the COV or cash over valuation out of pocket. For example, if you and the seller agree to $550K, but apparently according to the HDB, the valuation of the house is only $500K, that means the $50K is considered cash over valuation, and you have to pay it in cash. Cannot use CPF or house loan. Unfortunately, HDB will only show their house valuation amount after you have paid the OTP amount to the seller, which can range between $1 to $1,000, but most sellers demand $1,000. If for any reason you are not okay with the COV and you want to back out of the deal, then you will lose the 1K OTP money to the seller because it is not refundable. You can try to renegotiate the price with the seller, but usually they won't accommodate this. If you somehow got them to lower the agreed resale price though, note that the house still needs to get a new valuation again. Another thing that you should discuss together with the pricing is a temporary extension of stay, as it can be a deal breaker for both parties. Temporary extension of stay is a private agreement between flat sellers and buyers that allows seller additional time to stay after the resale completion. For example, in case their own new flat is not ready, etc. The maximum duration of this extension of stay is 3 months after the resale completion. And just to set your expectations, usually the seller won't pay a rental fee to the buyer, but typically the seller will still pay for their own electricity and internet bills. Note that during the extension of stay, you are already the new official homeowner. This means you will have to start paying all housing related costs such as the monthly installment for home, town council fees, property tax plus the $20 administrative fee, as this arrangement needs to be registered with HDB. If you are strictly looking for a flat without any extension, it's typically indicated in the ad, or you can also ask with the seller's agent before viewing. Start negotiating with the seller's agent and see their response. Typically, they will give a counter offer, or say the last offer rejected was this much, or say there are other serious buyers interested, but nobody can verify whether it's true or not. Those are just an attempt to make you increase your offer price. It's quite subjective and it depends on your budget and comfort level as well. Just try not to get emotionally attached to a house. In the current seller's market where the supply is low, it's quite common to get outbid by other buyers, so you have to be mentally prepared to look for other options. Once you and the seller agree on the price, you can officially make an offer to the seller who will offer you an option to purchase. The OTP is a legally binding contract between you and the seller that guarantees your right to purchase the HDB flat at the agreed upon price. The good thing is, HDB has a standard OTP contract template that cannot be altered. For the next 21 days, the seller cannot sell the unit to anyone else. You can then proceed to sign the OTP, which should already be printed out by the seller. You will also need to pay the option fee to book the flat. This option fee can range from $1 to $1,000, and this is also negotiable. Do note that once you have paid the option fee, you are obliged to exercise the OTP within 21 days, as the option fee is forfeited if the OTP is not exercised. If you do not exercise the OTP, the seller is free to sell the flat to anyone else after 21 days. If you are using your CPF monies and or a housing loan to finance your flat purchase, you must submit a request to value to HDB to determine the amount of loan and CPF you may use. As the OTP will expire after 21 days, typically you need to request for the flat valuation as soon as possible after you've received the OTP from the seller. You can do this online in the HDB Resale portal. To request for valuation, you just have to provide information such as page 1 of the OTP, property address, OTP serial number, option grant date, purchase price and option fee, etc. Typically, the value of the flat will be available on the portal within 5 to 7 working days, and an email will be sent to notify you. This is also the time where you will know whether you will need to pay COV out of pocket or not. If you wish to proceed with buying the flat after you see the valuation price, then you need to exercise the option. So what does this mean? You basically need to sign the acceptance in the option, deliver the signed original copy of the document to the seller, and then pay the seller an exercise fee, which is capped at $5,000 minus the option fee. On the other hand, if you want to cancel the purchase, you must inform the seller or their agent and allow the OTP to lapse and expire. Remember that the option fee is non-refundable even if you are not moving forward with the purchase. The next step is to complete the resale application on the HDB Resale portal. What it means is both you and the seller must submit the application with supporting documents within 7 days of each other. Do note that there's an administrative fee for $40 for 1 and 2 room flats or $80 for 3 room and bigger flats. The fees are non-refundable, inclusive of GST and payable by credit card. You will be required to provide the following information when filling up the application form, such as resale flat address, OTP details, soft copy of personal documents of all buyers and occupiers, soft copy of proof of income if applying for CPF housing grant. Also, take note that you will need to press the intent to buy on the HDB Resale portal and have a valid intent and HFE letter before the OTP can be granted or exercised. Step 10 is to accept the terms and conditions. You will receive an SMS from HDB within 10 working days informing you when you can accept the terms and conditions for all the documents prepared for you through the HDB Resale portal. This must be done within 6 days of receiving the SMS. Once endorsed, you will receive an in-principle approval for the resale. Besides paying for resale fees such as the title search fees, there are also other fees that you'll need to pay. For example, stamp duty fees and legal fees. To calculate your buyer's stamp duty fees, there are many online calculators that you can use. The next step is you will receive an approval notification. This is typically being sent to you via SMS or email to notify you when HDB's approval letter has been posted on the resale portal. Afterwards, you'll need to arrange a final inspection with the seller to check that the flat is vacant before the resale completion appointment. The last step is to attend the resale completion appointment. Your HDB appointment is typically set 8 to 10 weeks from the date of HDB's acceptance of the resale application. This is assuming that both you and the seller have submitted complete and accurate documents. However, if there's any issue with the documentation, then the waiting time may even be longer. Basically, what will happen is both buyers and sellers should come to the HDB office at the same time. Then, the HDB will witness the signing of the transfer document for the resale flat, the signing of the mortgage document or agreement applicable for HDB loans only, and the handover of the keys. Do note that you will have to reimburse the property tax to the seller for the portion of the year for which you own the property. Service and conservancy charges are to be paid up to the date of completion by the seller. That's it! You have bought yourself a resale HDB flat without using any buyer's agent. If you still have any questions, feel free to comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!